In 1965, 3 years before his death, Padre Pio revealed a truth that forever changed our understanding of the brown scapular of Mount Carmel. He told Brother Joseph something extraordinary. The promise of Our Lady concerning this scapular isn't merely pious tradition, it's an absolute guarantee. Those who die wearing the brown scapular with true faith will never face eternal judgment in mortal sin. Have you ever feared sudden death? The thought of leaving this life without a final confession, of facing God's judgment, carrying a grave sin on your soul. Padre Pio understood this anxiety, this torment that afflicts so many faithful Catholics, and he left us the absolute certainty that there exists an infallible protection for this moment. In the next few minutes, you'll discover why Padre Pio considered the brown scapular of Mount Carmel the most powerful spiritual protection a Catholic can wear. You'll understand Our Lady's age-old promise, confirmed by the sacred stigmata, and you'll learn how to correctly wear this scapular to secure your eternal salvation. It was July 16, 1251, in England. St. Simon Stock, Superior General of the Carmelite Order, prayed fervently before an image of Our Lady. The Carmelites faced terrible persecution. Many were martyred. The order was on the brink of extinction. St. Simon implored the maternal protection of the Blessed Virgin. Then, the most important vision in Catholic history concerning spiritual protection occurred. Our Lady appeared to St. Simon Stock, holding in her hands a brown cloth scapular. She spoke words that have echoed for over 700 years. "Receive, my dear son, this scapular of your order. Whoever dies clothed in it shall not suffer eternal fire." This promise became known as the Sabbatine privilege. Our Lady guaranteed that whoever wears the brown scapular of Mount Carmel with true faith and devotion will never be condemned to hell. More than that, she herself will descend into purgatory on the first Saturday after the person's death to bring them to heaven. It's the greatest guarantee of salvation the Mother of God has ever given humanity. But remember when I said Padre Pio confirmed this promise? In October 1965, he was very ill, but still received people for spiritual guidance. A woman from Rome, Mrs. Emilia, came desperate. Her husband had died of a sudden heart attack in the street, without sacraments, without a last confession. She feared for his soul's salvation. Padre Pio asked if her husband wore any sacramentals. Mrs. Emilia replied that yes, he never removed the brown scapular of Mount Carmel he had received at his first communion. Padre Pio's eyes filled with tears of joy. "Be at peace, my daughter. Your husband is saved. Our Lady kept her promise. He did not die in mortal sin." Mrs. Emilia didn't understand how this was possible. Her husband had died instantly in the street, without a priest, without confession, without sacraments. Padre Pio explained something few know about the power of the scapular. At the moment of death, those who wear the scapular with faith receive from Our Lady the grace of perfect contrition. The heart perfectly repents of all sins in the last instant of life. This revelation from Padre Pio changed the understanding of the scapula's promise. It's not that the person escapes divine judgment, it's that Our Lady, at the final moment, grants the supreme grace of perfect repentance. The soul is purified before leaving the body. Therefore, it never faces God in mortal sin. After the funeral, the nurses told Padre Pio that they had found the scapular clutched in the doctor's hand. Even unconscious in his final moments, he held the scapular firmly against his chest. Padre Pio smiled and said, "Our Lady kept her promise. That soul is saved." This case proved something astonishing about the power of the scapular. Even those who don't consciously wear it can benefit from the intercession of others who pray with the scapular for their salvation. Marian protection extends through the communion of saints and intercessory prayers. Remember when I mentioned Padre Pio revealed how to correctly use the scapular? He taught 5 essential conditions for Our Lady's promise to be effective. First, being invested in the scapular by an authorized priest. Second, wearing it constantly next to the skin or over clothing. Third, maintaining an active sacramental life with regular Mass and communion. Fourth, praying daily at least 3 Hail Marys, asking for the intercession of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Fifth, living chastely according to one's state of life. These 5 conditions guarantee that the protection of the scapular is full and effective for eternal salvation. Padre Pio warned that wearing the scapular as a magic charm negatively impacts its efficacy. The scapular is a sign of total consecration to Our Lady. Whoever wears it is saying, "Blessed Virgin Mary, I entrust my soul into your hands. Protect me, especially at the hour of my death." It's a commitment of Marian fidelity until the very last moment of life. In September 1967, Padre Pio received a question that deeply concerned him. A young seminarian asked if he could use other sacramentals along with the brown scapular of Mount Carmel. The saint. Benedict Medal, the saint. Michael's scapular, the miraculous medal. Padre Pio responded with something surprising. He said that Our Lady is not jealous of other saints. On the contrary, she rejoices when we use multiple spiritual protections. But he warned, the brown scapular of Mount Carmel must always be the primary one. It's the only one that carries the explicit promise of eternal salvation. Other sacramentals protect during life, but only the scapular guarantees protection in death. This guidance from Padre Pio became common practice among devotees. They use various sacramentals for different protections, but always with the brown scapular of Mount Carmel as the primary one, the one that should never be removed. It's the supreme guarantee that the soul will not be lost in eternity. Padre Pio said that generosity attracts multiplied blessings. If this revelation about the scapular touched your heart, if you felt the importance of this protection for your eternal salvation, there's a way to return this grace. YouTube has the super thanks button right there below. It's not just a contribution, it's a way to help spread this saving devotion to more souls who need to know Our Lady's promise. Padre Pio promised, those who help spread Marian devotions receive special protection from the Mother of God. May she multiply your generosity in eternal graces. But there's still a secret that Padre Pio revealed only to very close people about the brown scapular of Mount Carmel. In March 1968, a few months before his death, he told Brother Joseph something he had never said publicly. During his mystical visions, he saw the exact moment when Our Lady fulfilled the promise of the scapular. Brother Joseph documented this revelation in his personal writings. Padre Pio described that at the moment of death, Our Lady appears to the soul that wears the scapular with faith. She doesn't come alone. She comes accompanied by Saint Joseph, the person's guardian angel, and all the saints of special devotion to that soul. It's a heavenly entourage that comes to fetch the faithful child. The first thing Our Lady does is show the soul all the sins of their entire life, but not to condemn, to awaken perfect contrition. The soul clearly sees all the offenses committed against God and deeply repents. It's such an intense and sincere repentance that it completely purifies the soul before judgment. This revelation explains why Padre Pio was so certain about the salvation of those who wear the scapular correctly. It's not that the person escapes divine justice. It's that they receive the supreme grace of perfect repentance at the right moment. God's mercy manifests itself through the maternal intercession of Mary Most Holy in April 1968. Padre Pio had an experience that definitively confirmed for him the power of the scapular. He was praying in the chapel when he had a vision of his own death. He saw Our Lady approaching him in the final moment, holding in her hands the scapular he had worn for over 50 years. Our Lady said to him in the vision, "My dear son, you have taught so many souls the value of this scapular. Now you will personally see how I fulfill my promise. When your time comes, I myself will come for you. You will not be afraid, for you will know that you are protected by my maternal intercession." This vision gave Padre Pio a deep peace about his own death. He spent the last months of his life even more dedicated to teaching about the brown scapular of Mount Carmel. He wanted as many souls as possible to know this infallible protection. It was as if he knew this would be one of his last missions on earth. When Padre Pio died, on September 23, 1968, several people reported mystical experiences related to the scapular. Mrs. Clara, a devotee from San Giovanni Rotondo, woke up at 2 in the morning, seeing a bright light in the room. In the center of the light, she saw Padre Pio smiling and pointing to the scapular she was wearing. Sister Margarita, who cared for the sick in the hospital near the convent, had a vivid dream on the night of Padre Pio's death. She dreamed that she saw him walking towards a golden light, accompanied by Our Lady. The two held a giant scapular that protected a multitude of souls who followed them to heaven. These accounts confirmed for the devotees that Padre Pio had personally received the protection of the scapular he had taught so much about during his life. His death was a practical demonstration of how Our Lady fulfills the promise made to St. Simon Stock over 700 years ago. But Padre Pio's legacy about the scapular did not end with his death. In 1975, 7 years after his passing, reports began to emerge of people receiving scapulars through his mystical apparitions, always in moments of greatest spiritual need or proximity to death. Mrs. Antonietta from Bari was given up by doctors with terminal cancer. On the eve of what would be her last surgery, she had a vision of Padre Pio, who gave her a brown scapular of Mount Carmel. He told her, "Wear this and do not fear death. Our Lady has already guaranteed your eternal protection." Mrs. Antonietta woke up holding a real scapular in her hands. The surgery was an unexpected success. Antonietta made a complete recovery. She lived 15 more years, always wearing the scapular she'd received from Padre Pio in that vision. When she finally passed away in 1990, her family reported she smiled serenely on her deathbed, whispering Marian prayers. Father Michael, a priest from Rome who doubted Padre Pio's apparitions, had his own experience in 1982. He was going through a terrible crisis of faith, questioning his vocation, even God's existence. One desperate night, he begged heaven for a sign to prevent him from abandoning the priesthood. Padre Pio appeared to him, holding a brown scapular of Mount Carmel. He simply said, "Father, our faith is here. Our hope is here. Our salvation is here." He placed the scapular around Father Michael's neck and vanished. The priest awoke, wearing a scapular he hadn't had before he slept. From that day on, Father Michael became one of the greatest promoters of devotion to the brown scapular of Mount Carmel. He founded an apostolic movement dedicated to teaching about Our Lady's promise. He always recounted his experience as proof that Padre Pio continues to intercede for the salvation of souls through the scapular. These testimonies show that Padre Pio's mission concerning the scapular continues, even after his canonization. St. Pio of Pietrelcina became a special intercessor for those seeking the protection of the brown scapular of Mount Carmel. He knows firsthand the salvific power of this Marian devotion. The devotion to the brown scapular of Mount Carmel, taught by Padre Pio, has spread throughout the world. Millions of Catholics wear this sacramental, knowing they carry the greatest guarantee of salvation Our Lady has ever given humanity. It's a protection that transcends nationalities, cultures, and historical periods. But Padre Pio always warned, the scapular is only effective when worn with authentic spiritual life. It's not enough to wear the brown cloth. It's necessary to live as a true child of Mary, practicing Christian virtues, maintaining an active sacramental life of praying daily and practicing charity. The scapular is a sign of total consecration to Our Lady. Whoever wears it is saying, "Most Holy Mother, I am your child forever. Take care of my soul, especially at the hour of my death. Protect me from mortal sin. Take me with you to heaven when God calls." This consecration through the scapular creates a special relationship between the soul and Our Lady. She truly becomes the mother of that soul in a special way. Therefore, at the moment of death, she keeps her maternal word, protecting the child who has completely surrendered into her hands. The promise of the scapular is the greatest demonstration of Mary's maternal love for humanity. She wants all souls to be saved. That's why she gave this infallible guarantee. Whoever wears the scapular with true faith will never be lost in eternity. It's a mother's promise, a promise she never breaks. If you don't yet wear the brown scapular of Mount Carmel, seek out a priest to be properly invested. If you already wear it, renew your Marian consecration. Live the Carmelite spirituality intensely. Make the scapular not just protection, but an authentic Catholic lifestyle under the mantle of Our Lady. The protection of the scapular revealed by Padre Pio is the greatest spiritual treasure a Catholic can possess. It is the absolute certainty that no matter the circumstances of death, Our Lady will be there to guarantee eternal salvation. It is the supreme peace of one who completely trusts in the maternal intercession of the Blessed Virgin Mary. But there's a little-known aspect of the brown scapular of Mount Carmel that Padre Pio revealed in his last years of life. In July 1968, 2 months before his death, he explained to a group of visiting priests that the scapular doesn't only protect the soul of the wearer, it protects the entire family when worn with genuine faith by the head of the household. This revelation brought a family dimension to the devotion of the scapular. Padre Pio taught that when the father of a family wears the brown scapular of Mount Carmel, living authentically the Catholic faith, the whole family comes under the special protection of Our Lady. It's as if the scapular creates a field of protection that expands to the spouse and children. The basis of this family protection lies in the spiritual authority that God grants to the head of the Catholic family. When this authority is exercised with faith and Marian devotion through the scapular, Our Lady assumes a special maternal care for all that lineage. It's a protection that is transmitted through the family line. Padre Pio documented dozens of cases where entire families benefited from the devotion to the scapular of the patriarch. In 1963, Don Salvatore, a merchant from Palermo, began to wear the brown scapular of Mount Carmel after a profound conversion. 3 months later, his wife was cured of a cancer that doctors considered incurable. Don Salvatore's eldest son, who was addicted to gambling and deeply in debt, managed to overcome his addiction and rebuild his life. His youngest daughter, who suffered from a serious neurological disease, began to show signs of improvement that impressed the specialists. It was Marian protection manifesting itself in the entire family through the father's scapular. Don Salvatore wrote to Padre Pio reporting these transformations. The response was enlightening. When the head of the family sincerely consecrates himself to Our Lady through the scapula, she assumes the protection of the entire house. It's as if that family becomes the special property of the Blessed Virgin Mary. This family dimension of the scapula's protection is based on Catholic theology about the family as the domestic church. Just as the Pope spiritually protects the entire universal church, the father of the family who wears the scapula with faith attracts Marian protection for the domestic church that is his family. Padre Pio also taught that there is a special connection between the brown scapula of Mount Carmel and the Rosary. He advised that families where someone wears the scapula should pray the Rosary together daily. This combination of scapula and rosary creates an almost invincible family protection. The theological explanation is profound. The scapula is a sign of consecration to Our Lady. The rosary is her favorite prayer. When a family combines these two devotions, it establishes a special maternal relationship with the Blessed Virgin Mary. She truly becomes the mother of that family in a unique way. In August 1967, Padre Pio received a dramatic letter from a family in Brazil. The parents were desperate because their 3 children had completely abandoned the Catholic faith. One had become Protestant, another was living in concubinage, the third openly mocked religion. The family was spiritually devastated. Padre Pio offered surprising advice. He told the father to invest in the brown scapula of Mount Carmel and to make a complete consecration of the family to Our Lady. For 30 consecutive days, the father should pray a rosary, specifically praying for the conversion of his children. The mother should fast every Friday with the same intention. 6 months later, a new letter arrived from that Brazilian family. The Protestant son had returned to the Catholic Church after a mystical experience, where he saw Our Lady. The son, living in concubinage, got married in the church and regularized his situation. The third son asked his parents for forgiveness and returned to Mass. The entire family was reconciled. This case demonstrated to Padre Pio the extraordinary power of the scapula when used with family faith. It's not just individual protection, it's a tool for evangelization and conversion within the home itself. Our Lady uses the sincere devotion of the parents to draw the children back to God. From this experience, Padre Pio systematically began advising parents who sought him out about the importance of the brown scapula of Mount Carmel. He said that a father who wears the scapula with true faith will never see a child eternally lost. Our Lady personally commits to the salvation of that offspring. This family promise of the scapula is based on the maternal intercession of Mary Most Holy. Just as she interceded with Jesus at the wedding at Cana, she continually intercedes for the salvation of families who consecrate themselves to her through the scapula. It is a maternal intercession that never fails. But Padre Pio warned that this family protection requires authentic spiritual life from the parents. It's not enough to just wear the scapula. It is necessary to set an example of lived Catholic faith, maintain Christian discipline in the home, and raise children in the values of the gospel. The scapula enhances family evangelization. It does not replace it. One of Padre Pio's most touching revelations about the scapula happened in January 1968. He told Brother Joseph that during his mystical visions, he saw that the souls in purgatory who had worn the scapula on earth received special relief from temporal punishments through the prayers of living family members who also wore the scapula. This revelation created a dimension of communion of saints in the devotion of the scapula. Families who wear the scapula with faith establish a network of protection and intercession that extends beyond physical death. The living help the dead. the dead intercede for the living, all under the protective mantle of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Brother Joseph documented that Padre Pio taught a specific prayer to be prayed for family souls in purgatory. Our Lady of Mount Carmel, by your promise of the sacred scapula, relieve the sufferings of our loved ones who have departed this life wearing your protection. Grant them prompt liberation to eternal glory. This prayer became a tradition among devout scapular families. Every first Saturday of the month, they pray this special prayer for family souls in purgatory. Many report dreams and visions where they see their loved ones thanking them for these prayers and confirming that they have been released to heaven. The family devotion to the scapula taught by Padre Pio created a unique domestic spirituality. Homes where this devotion is lived become true Marian sanctuaries. Our Lady dwells in a special way in these homes, protecting, blessing, interceding for each member of the family. During Padre Pio's last months of life, between June and September 1968, he intensified his teachings on the scapula. It was as if he knew he would soon depart this life and wanted to leave this spiritual legacy well established. His last instructions on the scapula became true spiritual testaments. One of these final instructions was about the importance of teaching children to wear the scapula from a young age. Padre Pio said that a child who grows up wearing the scapula develops a special maternal relationship with Our Lady that will accompany them throughout their life. It's a protection that strengthens over time. He advised parents to perform a simple but meaningful ceremony when investing young children with the scapula, to explain to the child that from that moment on, she would be a special daughter of Our Lady, that the Blessed Virgin would take special care of her. At the hour of death, that the scapula was a treasure more valuable than any earthly riches. These children who grew up wearing the scapula under Padre Pio's guidance are now adults who testify to the power of this protection in their lives. Many report mystical experiences, special protections in moments of danger, and a deep peace about their own death, knowing that they are protected by Our Lady's promise. The legacy of the scapula left by Saint Pio of Pietrelcina continues alive and active in the worldwide Catholic Church. Millions of faithful wear this protection, knowing that they carry with them the greatest guarantee of salvation that a mother can give to her children. It's a promise of maternal love that transcends time and space. Every day, new families discover the protection of the scapula through the teachings of Saint Pio. Every day, new souls consecrate themselves to Our Lady through this millennial devotion. Every day, the promise made to Saint Simon Stock in 1251 continues to be faithfully fulfilled in the lives of those who trust in the maternal intercession of the Virgin of Mount Carmel. There is an extraordinary aspect about the scapula that Padre Pio revealed in his last weeks of life. In September 1968, a few days before his death, he confided to Brother Albert that throughout his life he had received special revelations about the eternal destiny of people who wore the scapula. All, without exception, had been saved. Brother Albert recorded, "This final confidence of Padre Pio, in 50 years of intense mystical life, I have never seen a soul who wore the scapula with true faith be lost in eternity. Some passed through purgatory for a shorter or longer time, but all reached heaven. Our Lady's promise is infallible." This final revelation of Padre Pio became the most powerful testimony to the efficacy of the brown scapula of Mount Carmel, a canonized saint with proven mystical gifts, personally guaranteeing that Our Lady's promise never failed in his spiritual experience. It is a divine confirmation of the scapula's protection. But there was still a secret that Padre Pio kept about his own relationship with the scapula. He revealed that since childhood he had visions of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, She always appeared holding a scapular and saying, "This will be your shield in life and in death. Wear it always and teach others to wear it." That's why Padre Pio was so certain about the power of the scapular. It wasn't just faith based on tradition. It was a personal mystical experience, accumulated over decades of contemplative life. Padre Pio had seen with the eyes of his soul how Our Lady faithfully kept her promise in every instance. One of Padre Pio's final instructions regarding the brown scapular was on the importance of renewing it when it became worn. He taught that when the scapular became very old or torn, it should be replaced with a new one. But the old one should be burned with reverence, not thrown in the trash. It's a sacred object that deserves respectful treatment. For this renewal, Padre Pio guided a specific prayer. Our Lady of Mount Carmel, just as I renew this scapular which consecrates my soul to you, renew also my faith, my hope, and my love. Keep me always under your maternal protection until the moment of my death. This renewal prayer became tradition among the devotees of the scapular. Many perform the renewal every year on July 16th, the feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, as a way to reaffirm their Marian consecration. It's a moment of profound spiritual renewal. During his last months, Padre Pio also taught about the importance of explaining the meaning of the scapular to the people who receive it. It's not enough to simply hand over the sacramental. It is necessary to form the person in Carmelite spirituality so that the protection is truly effective. This formation included explaining the 5 essential conditions for the scapular's efficacy: investiture by an authorized priest, constant use, an active sacramental life, daily Marian prayer, and a chaste life according to one's state. Only then does the scapular become truly effective protection for eternal salvation. Padre Pio also warned about the fake scapulars that were beginning to circulate. Some were made with inappropriate materials. Others were not blessed correctly. Others still were sold as commercial products without proper consecration. He advised that only authentic scapulars, blessed by authorized priests, should be accepted. The authenticity of the scapular is fundamental to its spiritual efficacy. A fake or poorly blessed scapular does not carry the protection promised by Our Lady. Therefore, Padre Pio insisted that people always seek reliable sources to obtain their scapulars. In the final days of September 1968, Padre Pio gave his last instructions on the scapular to the friars of the convent. He said that they should continue propagating this devotion even after his death, that this would be one of his most important missions in the continuation of his earthly apostolate. This final instruction was faithfully fulfilled. The Capuchin friars of San Giovanni Rotondo became great propagators of the devotion to the brown scapular of Mount Carmel. Thousands of pilgrims who visit the tomb of Padre Pio receive scapulars and instructions on how to use them correctly. The sanctuary of Padre Pio has become one of the largest centers for the spread of devotion to the scapular in the world. People from all continents come there, seeking not only the intercession of the saint, but also the protection of the scapular that he so loved and taught during his life. The sanctuary's library holds hundreds of letters from people reporting graces received through the combination of Padre Pio's intercession and the protection of the brown scapular of Mount Carmel. These are impressive testimonies of conversions, healings, protection in times of danger, and especially deaths in a state of grace. One of the most touching letters was written in 1995 by a family from Germany, the patriarch of the family. An 80-year-old man who had worn the scapular throughout his adult life was on his deathbed with terminal cancer. In his final days, he began to speak to someone only he could see. The family was worried. thinking it was delirium from the illness. But the elderly man clearly said that he saw Our Lady of Mount Carmel at the foot of his bed, holding a golden scapular in her hands. She was waiting to take him when the time was right. On the morning he died, the elderly man woke up smiling and said to his family, "She came to get me." He showed the scapular he was wearing and said, "This is my passport to heaven." He died a few minutes later, serenely, holding the scapular against his chest. The family reported that a sweet fragrance of roses filled the room. This type of testimony is repeated thousands of times around the world among people who wear the scapular with true faith. Death becomes a moment of encounter with Our Lady. Not of fear or despair. The scapular is truly the spiritual life raft that Padre Pio said it was. The complete legacy of the scapular left by Padre Pio of Pietrelcina includes not only the theological teachings on devotion, but mainly the personal testimony of a whole life protected by Our Lady through this millennial promise. His sanctity confirmed the authenticity of the Marian protection of the scapular. Write "Our Lady of Mount Carmel, protect me" in the comments and see how many people seek the same eternal protection. Have you ever had a special experience wearing the scapular?